I'm the bad guy for embarrassing a guy in my lecture by telling him I'm not going to answer his questions. I had to do a group presentation as part of my end of year assignment, and I think it mostly went great. The presentation was 15 minutes minimum with a 15 minutes question session afterwards. There's one guy in my course, John, 21, who many people in the course dislike. He is epitome of a well-acted guy who likes to be the devil's advocate for things that shouldn't have a devil's advocate. He's embarrassed himself more than once by asking ridiculous and pointless questions to our professors that have no relevance, and he's very full of himself. I'm aware that this may seem harsh, but this has been consistent behavior for the past 2 years, and his smarminess has isolated himself from many people in our course who don't want to deal with him. After our presentation, he says he has several questions and proceeds to ask some of the most irrelevant questions. For example, in the presentation, I mentioned that one of my inspiration with the project was a trend in 2020, where grown men, usually 30, 40 years old, will do teenage girl TikToks mocking them, from how they like their coffee to the prom dresses. John's question was, don't you think that they should get criticized for posting online? Not only was this not relevant to the project, but you could sense the tension in the room. So many people rolled their eyes, and even his friend gave him a shut up nudge. After a few more questions, which were all direct to me, not the other three people in the group, I immediately got annoyed and said, "Listen, mate, I'm not going to answer any more questions from you. You're clearly trying to grasp at straws here." The rest of the questions from our other peers were great and actually of substance. And overall, I feel the whole thing went well, other than that one hiccup. As we were leaving the hall, I heard John complaining to some of his friends, and then I saw him going to talk to our lecturer. I got an email from our professors asking me to join a Teams meeting where I was expected to apologize for embarrassing John and something about how we were supposed to create a safe space for our fellow peers, and by being rude, I didn't do that. He said if we can sort it out before Thursday by ourselves, then great. So I sent John a quick message saying I didn't mean to be short with him, but he was clearly asking pointless questions. He just replied, "You didn't have to be a witch about it," and then blocked me. And also to everyone asking why I didn't handle this professionally, this is the first time I've done something like this, and I was already nervous because of the great assignment aspect, and I get major stage anxiety. This was the first time in my whole life that I've had to do an academic presentation. So, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for wanting a week vacation alone, away from my partner and children? Me and my partner are in a disagreement. He thinks I'm selfish for considering this. I don't think I am. He suggested I pause here to see what he'll say. So we have been together for 12 years. My partner has two responsibilities in terms of the house. He walks the dogs in the morning and he goes to work full time. More often than not, he falls asleep at 8 p.m. He works in IT. We have three children, 7, 4, and 2, and I am fully responsible for their care, as well as everyone's household duty, laundry, cooking, cleaning. I'm a Sam, but I'm also self-employed. So after I look after the children all day, I then work for a couple of hours on my laptop. My birthday is coming up. Ask my partner what he will think if I book myself a vacation for a week on my birthday and win my own. If he could use his PTO to take time off to look after and spend this week with our three children, taking them to school and taking care of the house. He told me I was selfish. It's selfish to want to go on holiday for a week for my birthday. He said yes. My partner hasn't done a lot of laundry in the 10 years. He cooks dinner occasionally, like 2 times a month. He doesn't however move or mow lawns. I get it. He's tired and he works full time. But I work too. And I don't feel appreciated. I just want a week where I don't have a crying child or stop the toddler from running into traffic or worry about everyone else got time while sacrificing my own. The last time I spent time away from children or house was when we went out for dinner for his birthday in March. After they were asleep, I organized a babysitter. Oh, and my pap smear, which he tried to make me take the children to even though he was home. The holiday will be paid for entirely by me. He gets 28 days of PTO, not including bank holidays. Last year, he lost 12 PTO days because he didn't take them. We are in the UK, so am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for telling my son it was a mistake to put his name on a birth certificate of a child that is not his? Hi, I'm Jake, 48. Start off by saying my son Peter has a big heart. He always has. It's gotten him into trouble quite a few times. A little over a year ago, he met June. She was 12 weeks pregnant at the time. Father no way inside. Peter and June moved really fast. She was living with him just 4 months later. He told me that he was going to help her with the baby, which I was on the fence about us. They had just met, but also figured it's not my business. And it's horrible of him to want to help his girlfriend with her baby. June had a baby girl, Kaden, 6 months ago. Peter has been heavily involved in her life. Recently, he proposed to June. We went to the place to celebrate the big news. That's when my wife asked if Peter had plans to adopt Cadence. June and Peter avoided the subject and my wife let it drop, figuring it may be tricky, especially if Cadence's biodad didn't want to relinquish rights. Later on, after Cadence was put to bed, June and Peter admitted that they wouldn't have to adopt Cadence, as he's on the birth certificate. I asked, wasn't that fraud? He said after speaking to a lawyer. Even if it make it to court, there is no legal repercussions. Their reasoning for doing this is Peter will have equal say in Cadence's life. If for whatever reason they broke up, he'd get custody. I instantly thought, and he'll be on the hook for child support. But I stayed quiet. My wife asked if they planned for telling Cadence the truth, and they said yes. It wouldn't be a secret. The biodad is also aware and doesn't care as he has no desire to be a dad. I don't think that June is trying to get money out of him. She actually comes from a wealthier family and works for her dad's company. I genuinely believe they just love each other, but to me, this is a recipe for disaster. I tried to let it go. Then Peter stopped by the house for something, and we got to talking about Cadence. Peter called her his daughter, and I said I'm glad he loves her. But him signing the birth certificate was a huge mistake. I pointed out all the things that could go wrong. He said he doesn't care and wants to do right by his girls. He called me unsupportive and told me to either get on board or I won't get to be in my granddaughter's life. I love my granddaughter. Blood doesn't matter. She's family. But I still think this is a mistake. So am I the bad guy for voicing that? Am I the bad guy for not selling the house that's been in my family for 900 years? I come from a family that was formerly minor royalty in the country we are from. We no longer have titles or power. What we do have left is our palace, which we had for a little over 900 years. Until recently, my grandfather owned it. He has 2 kids, my dad and his sister. My dad and mom died soon after I was born, so hence my sister expected to inherit the palace. She made no secret of the fact her intention was to sell it. She had lined up a prospective buyer who would offer the equivalent of $10 million because our family has massive debts and saw this as the way of solve them. My grandfather died last year, and because he knew my aunt would just sell it, gave the palace to me. I have no intentions of selling because how many generations of my family have been born and died here? It's a piece of family history that is worth more than any price that can be given to it. My aunt pointed out that the family has massive debt that needs to be paid off, or else we'd continue to struggle and stress over it. I told her that while I wanted to be rid of the debt as much as possible, I'm going to do it by selling our home. She says I'm condemning my family to further suffering in efforts to pay off our loans. But I honestly don't care. I'm not going to sell off a piece of history no matter what. She thinks this makes me the bad guy, but I don't think so. There are some things more important than paying off debts immediately. So, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for not trust my husband after he defended another woman? Me and my husband have been struggling for a few months. I broke up my back while working, and he had to become the breadwinner and do the housework so I could heal. I couldn't walk, stand, or even sit up for 2-3 months. He took on a lot, and I appreciate that. However, even since he had to take on more responsibilities, he's mean. Borderline cruel, really. He won't let me start working again. He talks down on me about everything and has become a heavy drinker. Now I follow the page on Facebook that's for my town called Are We Dating the Some Guy? It's linked to our country. I follow it because it's funny, and he's seen some of his friends on there and likes seeing it because he also thinks it's funny. He doesn't tip his friends off either, so not making other women unsafe. He likes seeing who his bad friends are, so he can cut them off. He has never violated that. And he's only ever seen it once, and was looking over my shoulder. I didn't specifically show him. Anyways, a couple weeks ago, someone posted an anonymous post on there of a picture of him. They asked if they were red flags because he's cute and they wanted to ask him out. She also said she's never seen him wear a ring. I saw it and was about to comment that he's my husband and she probably shouldn't ask him out, and sorry about the confusion because he doesn't wear a ring. Before I call the woman he has hung out with before, still hangs out with her. And boys commented on the post as if she was directing me. I messaged her asking why she was attacking that girl and that the post wasn't mine and she needed to knock it off. She sent me a thumbs up, and then before I knew it, my husband was in my face, screaming at me for testing his loyalty, and showed me a screenshot of the post she sent him. I told him I didn't make the post, and he called me an insecure liar, among other things. She then continued harassing me, calling me a liar, and then I ruined my marriage by sitting on my ass for 5 months. I couldn't barely move for 3 months, and then he wouldn't let me work. So I'm not sure what that was about. Asked him why she would say that, and he told me he didn't know, and she just cares and is looking out for him. He defended her and still doesn't believe me. He wouldn't talk to me for a few days and treated me awful. Said we were over and he was going to leave me while pregnant and our 3-year-old and never looked back. I have to add, when he told her I was pregnant, she got crazy irritated and told him, "That's a mistake. You're sure it's yours?" Asked him to please unfriend her because I didn't like the vibes going on, and I felt betrayed that he defended her and not me. I also felt like she was intentionally trying to cause a problem. He got mad at me and unfriended me on Facebook. I got suspicious and looked through his phone, and they've been talking crap about me for weeks now. I asked him once again to unfriend her, and he told me I need to get over myself, and I'm a bad guy and a liar. I think he's a bad guy and being untrustworthy. I feel like my feelings are valid. and he won't even talk about it without screaming at me. So am I the bad guy? My daughter doesn't want me in her life because of our differences in the political opinions. Am I the bad guy? Hello, I have two daughters, Alicia and Mary. I'm divorced from their mother since the girls were in middle school and have been with my current partner, Janice, for 15 years. But we are not married. My girls were living with me full time since they were in high school until they each moved out. I'll get right to it. My girls have opposite political views from Janice and I. This came to a head several years ago. Things have been strained for a while and finally blew up. The girls were over for Christmas and Mary said some things that upset Janice and Mary walked out. Alicia stayed, but it was awkward the rest of the day. Janice and I decided not to let Mary visit anymore, but I still saw her regularly on my own or with Alicia. A year or so after that, I took Alicia out for breakfast on her birthday. We had decided not to talk about politics anymore because we don't get along. Well, there was something upsetting on the TV, and the restaurant was empty except for us and another couple, and I made a comment about it, and Alicia just started ranting. She wouldn't stop even when I told her to, because she said I was the one who brought it up. The man at the one table agreed with me and started getting upset, saying what Alicia was saying was stupid and that she should shut up. I agreed with him. Yet another day ruined, I guess, so I just walked out. I told her happy birthday before I left. She was very upset that I abandoned her with a stranger that was upset with her. But all she had to do was stop talking, and that never would have happened. She said she felt unsafe and that I shouldn't have just left her there. And maybe I shouldn't have, but she also needs to take responsibility for her part in this. Now she barely speaks to me, and I only see her on special occasions like birthdays or Father's Day, and never at either of our houses. She moved and hasn't told me where. It is somewhere local, though. I see Mary more often, but she doesn't want to get involved with me and Alicia's issues. So I'm at the bad guy for not taking total responsibility for what happened. I'm at the bad guy for choosing mom over grandma. My siblings and I have been in contact with our parental grandma for a couple years. Her health has begun to decline, and while I love her with all my heart, she refuses to compromise, which means we haven't seen her. Backstory: our biological father was incredibly abusive to us, and our mother, I'm talking serious physical and emotional abuse, which led to a divorce in the late 2000s, when we were still kids. Before the divorce, and up to us moving out of the house, our parental grandparents were one of our primary caregivers. Me and my sister especially formed a close bond with them. They were more parents to us than our bio father even was. They did their best to defend us from his anger and abuse, but they could never stop at all. My bio father manipulated us and convinced us that it would be difficult to uproot our lives to move with mom. And he had us convinced the Kurtz. She was lived with him until 2020. They had joint custody. Mom had weekends. When my mom found out his abuse was even worse than before the divorce, he always accused us of favoring our mom. She asked us permission and recorded what we said and brought it to Kurtz. In the end, she won full custody, and he will get visitation on the weekends providing he paid child support. He never did, and we haven't seen him since, except for funerals, weddings. Our lives have been far better since, and our mother has done an amazing job in helping us recover. We maintained contact with our grandparents after the move, but after our grandpa passed a couple years later, everything changed. Our grandma began to refuse to see or have contact with us unless our biological father was involved. She said if we had to stand up for our mom, she had to for her son. even though we offered multiple times to see her without either parent involved. We have done our best to figure out a compromise, but her only compromise is him being there with us when we see her. We obviously declined. We want nothing to do with him, but we love her all the same. That was a few years ago now, and we never achieved a compromise, and eventually we stopped trying after years. Flash forward to now, and her health is declining. She is nearly 90, and she is a tough lady. But everyone has limits. We have tried to reach out again because of this. We still love her very much, but she still refuses to compromise with us. So, as much as it pains us, we still haven't seen her. We refuse to compromise ourselves for it. My sister and brother still have mental issues because of the abuse. Our aunts, uncles have been bombarding us, telling us to seek it up and see her. Our cousins and people our age understand. So, are we the bad guys for not seeing her despite her not being willing to compromise?